where residents are still waiting for power to be restored. This is not Afghanistan or Iraq. This is the village of Old Westbury, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the entire United States. If you take a look at these wires here, these wires have been down on the ground for 2 weeks. I'm here with a local resident, Herb, an entrepreneur and a businessman. You ran a major company. You sold that business. If you had to look at LIPA as a public company, as an entity, given the experience you've had here in terms of this customer service, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think that they were terribly delinquent, and I would not be happy doing business with that type of company. I would seek elsewhere.
The American Society of Civil Engineers gives our energy infrastructure a D+ grade. Take a look at this devastation 2 weeks after the storm hit. I give our infrastructure an F. This is infrastructure. This is America. This is 2012. This is 2 weeks after the storm hit. This is despicable. Crews have come from all over the United States to help in this recovery effort. I'm joined here by Jerry, who's up from Nashville, Tennessee. Jerry, talk to me about the communication. What was it like when you first got up here?
It seems like it was slow, real slow here, you know, and it seemed like a lot of people didn't know what was going on.
One of the biggest questions facing all of Nassau County is that they don't have utility poles. They've been waiting for poles. The rumors were the poles were coming down from Montreal. There were other stories that the poles were in customs, immigration was holding them up. Well, guess what? We found the poles. When did these poles get delivered here to the park, do you know?
I have no idea. I've only been here since Saturday.
You know where these poles came from?
No idea.
Nobody had any coordination, no organization. You should hope, if you live in an area that's going to get hit by a hurricane, that there's pre-planning that goes into place. These poles should have been in position before that hurricane was even up past North Carolina.
All righty, Gary, before we go any further, we have called the Long Island Power Authority several times and invited them to join us today on the program, and we've asked for a statement. No statement, nothing. So there's a tremendous, Gary, amount of frustration out there. What I have been hearing is that the crews have been on scene, ready to work, and no one tells them where to go, what to do.
And that's exactly what we saw, Tyler. Again, this is not about LIPA. It's important for people to understand. Most utilities are a public company. LIPA is not a public company. LIPA is run by the government. The government, the state of New York, owns the lines. They then create a board. Andrew Cuomo runs that board, and then they license out the actual management of the company right now to National Grid. But it's important for people to understand, because what we saw yesterday is incompetence, mismanagement, lies to customers, clients, and just no communication whatsoever. We brought one guy from Nashville, Tennessee in that package on. Everybody, and I will say, the guys that have come from out of state, they have said they've never seen anything like it. Many of them work Katrina, many of them have worked, they spend extensive time repairing lines. They've never seen lack of maintenance, lack of management, lack of understanding. They called this situation the worst they've ever seen. And that's why, with many of these companies, Tyler, being public, it's so important for investors to understand what can happen. If this was a stock, the stock would be at zero right now. Zero.
Zero, and the management would be out of there.
Correct.
Today.
Correct.
They would be done. Let's talk a little bit about another guy that you met, a major player on Wall Street, and his experience.
Well, again, here we are, New York City, parts of downtown, 55 Water Street, major building downtown, still without power. We actually ran into a gentleman in the local deli here, Andel's, which is a great place everybody goes to. He was in there for the free Wi-Fi because he lives in Old Westbury. He works in downtown Manhattan. He was actually in there. I think we've got a picture of him actually. There he is, basically having to access online and do his job from there. And again, much of the national media has left this. This is still happening, and this is now over 2 weeks since the disaster.
Absolutely a terrible situation for so many people. Really, as your word, despicable.
Yep, despicable. And again, if you're a public investor in these companies, you better make sure your utility company is not managed like LIPA, because this is what you pay these guys these high rates for.
All right, Gary Kaminsky, thanks. Wonderful, wonderful story there.